Gonna look for it.
Loading.
All right, I'm gonna refresh. There it is. Look for it. Okay, I'm gonna post it on Facebook. Gonna look for it. All right, I'm gonna refresh. There
Loading.
it is. Look for it. All right, I'm gonna refresh. There it is. Look for it. Okay, I'm gonna post it on Facebook. Gonna look for it. All right, I'm gonna refresh. There it is. Look for it. All right, I'm gonna refresh. There it is. Look for it. Okay, I'm gonna. We keep looping.
I think it's over.
All right, awesome. That was me. I don't know if anyone's watching, but hey, it is 6:48. We were supposed to be here at 6:30, but anyway, let's give it a moment. Mr. Nathan, go ahead and introduce everyone.
Hey. So I'm Nathan Cook. I'm the interim school principal of Evergreen City Ballet and one of the choreographers whose piece you'll see tonight. In our Zoom meeting here is Benny Royce Royon, the artistic director of Evergreen City Ballet, and another one of the choreographers tonight. Also here is Barney, who is our music director and curated all of the music for tonight's show. Also with him here are many of his students who you'll also see playing live in the production tonight alongside our dancers. And then you'll also see, our two dancers here as well. This is Emiliano and Alexi, who will be featured in two different pieces tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Nathan, for that introduction. We are live on Facebook, so hopefully people are tuning in. And we are also, we've shared this pre-show talk also on our Facebook page. So please do say hello to us, give us a comment, let us know that you're tuning in. We have arrived at a very, very exciting moment of this project. The performance, which opens tonight. Yeah, round of applause, everyone, dancers and our musicians. You have done an incredible job. Mr. Barney and I are so proud of you. I know it was an ideal creative process, under creating under a pandemic. Wow, who would have thought? Mr. Barney and I have been talking, and we're completely proud of you guys, of everyone. That's an understatement. We're impressed. We're getting closer. You're heroes. You are our heroes. You're rock stars. The fact that we were able to finish this project on time is, it has been really a testament to everyone's energy and hard work. So congratulations, first of all. I haven't seen the entirety of it. I just kind of, reviewed it and whatnot, and giving myself a little bit of a surprise too. Some interview sections, but I'm really thrilled that it is opening night. So I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Barney so you can say a few words, and then we can start having a conversation.
Well, good evening. I'm delighted to be here. We have several students from Newport High School Orchestra, and what a treat, what a thrill this has been to work on this project with Evergreen City Ballet. I think it's been super exciting for everyone involved, musicians and dancers alike, for us to get a chance to work together. As Benny said, super challenging circumstances, but it's just a sheer testament of will that we are able to put this together and get such an amazing output. The choreography was awesome, the dancing is incredible, and the musicians are fabulous. So I hope everybody enjoys the show. You're muted, Benny.
You would think after over a year and a half, I would get this by now. Barney, this seems to happen every single time, right? It's kind of fun.
Every time.
Every time. But, we embrace the moment. And I think, between two schools, the Newport High School Orchestra group and the ECB group, wow, we've gone through a lot. So I'm gonna pose the first question, and let's see, just maybe raise your hand or give a reaction. Raise your hand like that if you want to answer this question. Um, how was the rehearsal process for you guys, for the musicians? Let's talk about that. You know, it's fairly similar, right? Like for dance and music, we pretty much rehearse all together. If you're working in an ensemble group, you have to rehearse physically in person. So how did you navigate for our musicians, Kenneth, Ning, Elaine, and Daniel? How did you navigate that under the pandemic?
Yeah, I guess I can talk about this. So yeah, it was definitely super tough to find a way to rehearse where we could all be socially distanced and like not contract COVID. So what we did was we actually set ourselves up like either at a park or like in our garage so that we could be super spread apart, and we were able to actually have like maybe one rehearsal per week, which is a little less than we would have liked, but still like it was great to be able to play with other people for the first time in like over a year.
Thanks for sharing, Kenneth. Anybody else from our NSHO group? Go ahead, Ning.
So for our group, we had like a similar dilemma of trying to figure out how to rehearse in a way that was COVID safe. So we started off doing like rehearsals in parks, and that was kind of a challenge, or like parks in people's driveways, because there's just like everyday traffic and everyday activity that's going on. And in our recordings, you could hear like kids playing in the background, and that was super distracting. So we started off rehearsing like in driveways and parks, but we eventually were able to move to our school's orchestra room. We worked with Mr. Blau to come in safely and do like all the health checks and everything, and rehearse with all the COVID precautions happening. So I think like the CDC guidelines where you couldn't be in a room for like more than 40 minutes or something. So we would have to like move from room to room and like bring all our gear with us every like 40 minutes or so we could be like safe and still able to rehearse. So it was definitely like a journey trying to find like a suitable place and like suitable practices to follow to rehearse properly.
I just want to add to that. For me, after rehearsing online for a year at that point, to have musicians actually come to school and get their instruments out in the orchestra room and to hear live music played by real live people in the orchestra room, that I talked a little bit about it in our interview in the movie, but that was such, I can't even describe what an amazing moment that was. Actually, to get a chance to play together. It was such a long and lonely year, honestly. And this was the start of us all coming back together, really.
And I second that. It was very thrilling to have both groups in the same room in our black box theater. I actually, Barney, as we were preparing in the theater, I really was trying to really super pay attention to who's entering at the front door. When are when are the musicians gonna arrive? And then when they were here, I just was so giddy. They're probably like, "Who is this dude?" And you're like, "This is the artistic director." I'm gonna pass it on to a couple of our dancers to also kind of answer the same question. How did we, as the group, the dancers and choreographers, please share with the audience, whoever's tuning in today. I hope people are tuning in. So we have Emiliano, who is dancing in Miss Perry's piece called Strings for Five. And we have Alexi Smith, who's in my piece, titled Untitled Dreams. How was the creative process and the rehearsal process for you both?
For my piece, like Mr. Benny said, he was our choreographer. He started us off with listening to the music and understanding the nuances of the music and responding to the music instead of trying to fit the music into his choreography. He wanted to really match and mesh with the music and the sound. And I think as a student, that was really helpful because then everything flowed so naturally. And if something didn't flow, Mr. Benny was really responsive to our concerns and our questions. So if a student didn't feel something matched, if it was in the right energy, he always encourages to find new solutions, to find a better piece of movement. It was really quite beautiful.
For me, it was sort of the similar ideas that Benny had in his, except my choreographer was Miss Perry. And we also had a lot of sort of coordination between like the students making up like a little bit of choreography here and there, along with Miss Perry, the choreographer, making up the majority of the choreography. But if we felt something was wrong or felt something that really didn't quite flow, we would, talk to Miss Perry, and we would have conversations about how we could improve the quality of the movement and things like that. But overall, it was pretty similar to what Alexi was saying.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, you two. I'm going to ask a follow-up question. What did you think about the live music arriving at the last minute? And how was that for you? Because, we discussed that with live performances, the tempo can change, right? And so that's something Mr. Barney and I are trying to bring to these two groups, is the live interaction between dance and music. So how was it to have the energy of the live music in this space for you, as opposed to listening to recorded music?
For me, at first, listening to the new music, I was more captured and more interested in just listening and being entertained by their music than actually matching it to my choreography, because I wanted to see really how they flowed. It was actually a lot easier, a lot smoother of an experience than I was worried about. I was worried they're going to be so fast, or they're going to be so slow, and they're not going to be able to watch our movements. And if there's a pause in the music, we won't be able to start again at the same time. But since the musicians, they watched so tentatively, they were able to respond really well to what we absolutely needed. And as dancers, we're always trained to change and adapt to the situation. So this was the same. We practiced, we heard what was different, and we acclimated. So it was really good.
Yeah, go ahead, Emiliano.
So for me, when we first heard the music, it was a little bit slower as the recording. When we first heard it as a recording, it was a little bit slower in some places and a little bit faster, like Alexi was saying. And I had gotten really frustrated with having it slower and faster and not being on time. And so when we got into the studio with all of these wonderful musicians, they like really adapted to us, because I realized that like in a recording, they can't see us, right? But as soon as they saw us moving in space and things like that, they were able to adapt, as well as, we were able to adapt to their music, and we found a really nice medium between the two.
Can I add to that, Benny?
Yes, please.
Part of, we probably didn't discuss this with you, Emiliano, but part of what we were doing actually was sharing rehearsal videos along the way. And in a real, if we were actually performing in person and rehearsing, that's kind of what would happen. The orchestra continues to get better and better over the rehearsals, just like you guys do. If we'd given you a complete recording right at the very beginning, it would have been just like actually practicing a recording, because it never would have changed, right? So this way we kept sending you, updated recordings from time to time. So it was different and it was evolving. And then by the time and then you would have a chance to respond to it. Oh, we'd like it a little faster here, or a little bit slower here. And so it was actually like a rehearsal process, and we really did have collaboration, but it's a collaboration in this virtual world that, as you know, everything takes so much longer. By the time you send it and respond, and then send it again and respond, it's not like, that whole thing would take place normally in the period of like one rehearsal. All these different tempo changes. But, that's what helped us bring it together, I think, in the end, and get all the tempos, hopefully, that worked well for everyone.
And I'm going to further that. I thought it was organic. I thought it was beautifully done. back and forth of sharing like the videos and also the recordings. So I'm going to pass it on to the musicians. Any of you can answer this. How was it seeing the movement, watching as you play? How was that for you?
I thought it was really engaging because we had to watch the dancers really carefully and adjust our playing constantly to their movement. And it was sort of like a nice change of pace to what we're used to in a normal orchestra.
Kenneth, anything to add?
Yeah, I was I played a double bass, so I'm like kind of like the bass line for our group, and I have a lot of time to look at the dancers more than maybe like a violin player might. So it was cool to be able to watch their movements and also see how they're like playing on beat with us and being able to connect our music together. I thought that was super cool, and it's definitely a different experience than like what we usually do. I usually just play in an orchestra or like by myself, and having this extra feature to our performance is something that I've never done before, and I definitely learned a lot from it.
Mr. Barney, I'm curious. I think one of the awesome discoveries of this project for me was, and it really, I mean, when I was building the digital program, I was just like giggling, like you guys are so inventive with your with your names, your group names. Can you talk a little bit about the process of the students learning they had a choice, right? They picked their music, and then you guys did contextual listening. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, so we do a chamber music project every year, and for me, it's all about developing independent musicianship. I want them to do it on their own, right? But I'm kind of giving them the guidance, to create their own group. They choose who they get to play with, who's going to be in their group. They choose their music. They have to research the music. They have to listen to recordings, which is contextual listening examples that you mentioned. If they name their group, they have to do everything. They have to figure out how to rehearse their group. They're rehearsing themselves. They have to set their own rehearsal schedule, as Ning and Kenneth alluded to earlier. They're basically doing the whole thing on their own. I try and give them the guidance. This is how you would study the score, or this is how you'd plan your rehearsal. But it's always been a tradition at Solo and Ensemble, which is our annual small ensemble festival competition throughout the whole state, really, that all the groups pick fun and interesting and creative and oftentimes silly names. So it's it's not like you're creating your group to go pro at this point, and they're just having fun with it. So one of the groups is called the Tater Tots. Another group is called Frog's Trolley, and a more serious name is called the Ruby Quartet. And there's all kinds of funny different names that they have for their groups. One of the groups is called 28 because they were ensemble number 28. Well, actually they're ensemble number 26, but they thought they were going to be 28. So they called themselves 28, which is why I got confused when I was making the program.
That's amazing.
So, they named themselves all kinds of funny things for all kinds of different reasons. So Elaine, tell us about the name of your group and what does it mean?
Okay, so we chose like a Chinese name for our quartet. So our quartet name is 西游记, and that's the name of like an ancient Chinese folktale. And it's about a group of 4 that travels and has a lot of adventures together. So because we're a quartet and we were also a group of 4, we thought this would be kind of like a fitting name.
That's awesome. That's a great story. I love it.
That is super cool. Mr. Nathan, we have a couple new dancers. I would like to pass on the floor with you, maybe ask them a couple questions. We have Addison Cambia joining us and Anna Marie Doucette.
Hi. I'm Addie. This is my first year at ECB, and we were in Miss Perry's piece. And
I'm Anna. I've been dancing for 8 years. It's my 3rd year at UCB. Yeah, also in Miss Perry's piece.
So, question for both of you, what was the hardest part of the creative process during your time working on this piece with Miss Perry, and what was your favorite part?
I think one of the most challenging parts of dancing in this piece was just how much she pushed us technically. I think she really challenged all of her dancers to just elevate our technique. You know, all the lines had to be very precise and the timing was sharp. And so I think she put this into like a certain phrase that I won't be able to repeat. I'll probably butcher it, but like she wanted to see the dance in the music and see the music in the dance. And so I think it was very challenging to imitate that technically. That was probably the most challenging part. What about you, Anna?
Yeah, I agree. When we had to like dance with the music, she talked a lot about bringing out our own character into it. And I feel like that has a lot to do, at least for me, like I listen to the music and that kind of like affects my mood of my dancing. And so finding that was probably the hardest part.
Yeah, and I think my favorite part of this piece was just, I think honestly just working on a piece to perform. Again, I haven't performed in what feels like ages, and so like putting in a lot of work and, you know, just dedication into a piece to perform and share with people to make them feel something again. I think the arts have suffered so much with the pandemic, but when you have a gift of dance and music and collaboration, it's something so special to be able to share again with people. I think, you know, society's really missed out on the arts, and so it's really just a privilege to be able to share that with others.
Yeah, I agree. My favorite part was definitely the last day, filming day, when we got to actually do it with the musicians. That was really interesting to hear it in live because like I could hear all these little things that I didn't hear in recordings. So that was really amazing to work with them.
I'm really glad you both touched on a little bit of the experience of the pandemic and how it's impacted us, and how really the absence of art, right, in society and in our lives, it's very revealing, right, that we do need it. It's important to our lives. And I think we all learned that day that was like, oh my gosh, because I felt like everybody's energies just bubbled up, right? It was super cool to really observe. Mr. Barney and I were super giddy. Like, just the sheer joy of having both groups in the same space. So I'm going to ask Mr. Nathan, as a choreographer, the same question he asked you. What was the most challenging part of your creative process? And also, what did you enjoy?
There's a couple things that were challenging. I have never been a huge counter when it comes to music. I really just hear it and follow it. But with this, I really had to count it because it changed in pacing and in timing constantly. So we all had to be, as a group, the dancers as well, just really on it with the counting. And then it was challenging, you know, choreographing around, you know, COVID restrictions, you know, keeping certain spacings in mind, distance and all that. So all those things were challenging, but it was a good kind of challenging. And I think brought out probably some choreography that wouldn't have been brought out otherwise. And my favorite thing was just having a chance to respond to the music, which I think somebody already touched on tonight, but that was really the assignment that we were given by you, Mr. Benny, was to, as choreographers, respond to the music. And I think after a year of so little art, as we were just saying, that was really, really nice.
So can I add something here? I was talking about how the kids chose their music and they chose their groups and they had independence to do all that. One of the interesting things about this process is that it's a little bit backwards of what we would normally do. oftentimes the music is chosen by the ballet company and told to me, okay, so we're going to do this music. Why don't you put the orchestra together and start working on it, and then we'll talk about tempos and things, and we'll come together and work on it. And I don't think Benny even realized until recently that actually my students picked the music.
That's true.
Themselves.
Yep.
I didn't pick it. This was their choice. And I think that was probably another thing that was really interesting, maybe for the choreographers, because although you had a choice from a number of different pieces that we offered as potential, selections, really, you're not really just free to choose whatever you want. It was very limited to what the students were working on. And so that, I think that's a kind of a unique element about it too. And I don't know if the students actually really, the orchestra students actually really appreciate that, how much they're really driving this creative process, because they're the ones that chose the music for this evening.
And I really think that's very cool, Barney. And for the musicians, when Mr. Barney was sharing with me like the recordings and also the presentations that you guys did and everyone did, which I would like to hear a little bit more, because I'm super impressed. And you are so lucky to have Mr. Barney, because there's this story that I like to tell, to share with everyone as I became the artistic director of the school that I'm an alumnus of. I often say that our founding artistic director, Wade Walthall, trained my right ear for dance, and then my left ear was trained by music by Mr. Barney. And what I observed with all the musicians in reviewing all the contextual listening presentations were how articulate you all were. It was just really amazing, the fact that I can feel and see the research that you did. And also, so seeing that information, also seeing the progression of the recordings, to me, that was a treat. So can one of you speak a little bit more about the value of all these elements that Mr. Barney had presented to you? Obviously, the culmination was for us all to meet together and then see what that was all about. So my curiosity lies in the contextual listening and the research and how that shaped your performance or playing.
Yeah, I mean, like, definitely all credit goes to Mr. Barney, or like Mr. Blau as we know him. But like, we started off like, so our chamber music program, like, it's kind of like a unit in school almost, where we have some assignments that we got to do, like the contextual listening, like the background research, and all these things that, like, they're kind of assignments in school, but really they're super beneficial to us in the way that we can implement them in our music. So I would say like the one thing that really helped us a lot was like this score study. So Mr. Blau had us study the score, like all the parts. So like even if I'm a bass player, I was able to check out the violins parts and the violas parts, and that really helped me understand how everything fits together, and that definitely led to like a huge improvement in our playing. And I guess I'll leave it up to one of my other musicians to add on to that.
We have Justin Chen joining us today, and we also have Rebecca joining us. So let's go with Justin first, and then we'll give Rebecca a chance.
Yeah, like Kenneth mentioned, like I thought it was really cool how the assignments in school, like you directly see how they were beneficial to us in the process. And like after each assignment, I feel like I learned something new about either the music or like the recording process, or just like, yeah, about how we were going to turn our music into like a final product in general.
Elaine or Ning or Daniel, anything to add before I pass it on to our dancers?
We did a lot of research on like the background of the composer, and listening to like other works that Schubert for us had composed, and just really familiarizing ourselves with his style and what like the patterns that or common among all of his pieces. So in our case, Schubert really liked to tell like stories through his music. And I think understanding his like thought process or like creative process almost in composing this piece helped us interpret it better and play with like more intent and purpose.
I love that intent and purpose. That's really cool. Mr. Barney, do we have any questions for our dancers or the musicians, or musicians? Do you have any questions for the dancers as well?
I don't have a question so much as just an observation. I just thought, we had such limited time together, but I still felt like we had a really valuable collaboration, and I think what the musicians added to the dance, was really impactful, and what the dancers added to the musicians in terms of this kind of multi-dimensional art kind of opens up our perspective to the whole world of art. And sometimes it's really easy to get kind of wrapped up in our own thing, and maybe we have blinders on a little bit, and to just kind of open up our perspective to the world around us, and especially at this time, when we've all been isolated for so long, having that collaboration with you, Benny, and connecting really the student dancers and the student musicians together, and to feel that energy come together was really special. And I'd just kind of like to hear a little bit more about that, from the dancers, and how they felt that and how they reacted, because in a way we're still just getting to know each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was super cool getting to work with a live orchestra. We worked with them a little bit with a live orchestra for the Nutcracker, so it's cool to work with a live orchestra again. And I think all of the musicians did an amazing job. And I think sometimes, at least for myself as a dancer, I kind of forget to pay attention to the music, and it sort of becomes an afterthought. So I loved getting to work with the musicians because it made me really focus on the music, and I think that really helped my dancing, and they all did such a lovely job. So it was really fun to do.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with Becca here. And I also think it was my first time dancing with live music at all. And so it was such a innovative experience for me. And it was honestly an honor just to see work with other students that are about my age. And I've been dancing since I was 3, but maybe they've been reading music since they were 5 or whatever. And so it's just amazing to see somebody put all their determination into another craft that complements dance so well and is necessary for dance. And I think just applause to the musicians, because we couldn't be here without them.
Yeah,
honestly,
they did an amazing job.
It's just really wonderful to hear from both sides what this meant to you, for the dancers and also for the musicians. Working with Mr. Blau, I'm gonna use how you call him, because for here at the school, our school, we say Mr. Benny, Mr. Nathan, our first name. So it's gonna be a cool learning moment for us. But yeah, I think it's we were really excited, and like Mr. Blau, Mr. Barney says, we're just getting started. We're just getting to know each other, and I think we got a really good thing going on here. And for our audiences out there, this collaboration with Newport High School Orchestra has been a long time coming. It really has. We were, Mr. Barney and I, Mr. Blau and I, were planning a year and a half ago already.
Well, last fall, because we were going to
Fall,
spring. So, a year from last fall, really, we started talking about it, and it was originally going to be live at Newport, and we were going to use all our chamber music groups, and some performances from the orchestra in the pit, and then so we'd play in the pit, and then we'd have a chamber group go up on stage and be up on stage, and that was our original vision of it for last year. And of course, yeah, we got rained out,
Yeah.
you know, last year. And so, this is just a way to make it happen. And we'll get to that vision. But in the meantime, I just think this was wonderful. And I honestly think we've learned so much during the pandemic, and we've learned new ways of doing things. And I think there's a lot of things that we're going to keep, I mean, it's nice to go back to rehearsing and performing in person, but there's ways of doing things that quite frankly work better online. Some things, and if we can incorporate those things that are better, it's going to make hopefully our whole artistic process continue to grow and even be better in the future. But with that being said, I can't wait to be on stage for real.
Yeah, and that's the goal. And I think you're right there, Mr. Blau, in terms of just where we are now after, this pandemic, what it has taught us. Technology is not going away. And I think we have learned, both groups have learned how to use that to our advantage, And I think this is a tool for us to bring, to expand our audiences, right? Like different groups of people that haven't ever seen, classical dance, ballet, or classical music in a sense, right? And so I think we have a very good opportunity here to bring people in the seats in the theater once we're allowed and once we're able to. Um, you know, and again, we're just getting started. And I really hope, Mr. Blau, that the musicians that we worked with this time, we'll get to work with them again for our next project. Um, it's the fact that they had agency. You gave them agency, and I really felt that they took that challenge. You gave them assignments and they delivered. For our viewers out there, a little bit of their process on the end during this time is Mr. Blau would give them prompts, and then they would upload their video, their rehearsal recording, to be viewed and reviewed. And so I got the privilege of seeing that progression, and watching the development of that. So, that's a many hours of watching and recording and balancing, So it's impressive. And that's why I say you guys are rock stars. It's very heroic to be creating right now, So please pat yourself on the back for the job well done that you have, accomplished. And, Mr. Nathan's going to back me up on this one. We're super impressed and proud of our dancers. You're just meeting, a few of them right now for our audiences, but they really have worked so hard. They've been super patient, generous, and just they work as a team, and they worked with us. So yeah, nothing much to add, but I'd love to hear a little bit from Mr. Nathan. Uh-oh, is he frozen? I think he's frozen.
I was just going to add, Benny, a
Go
lot
ahead.
of these musicians are seniors, and so we're about to turn them loose on the world.
Can they like visit again?
Well, the way the world works, you never know. It's a good possibility we may work again in the future sometime, but it'll probably be a few years down the road. But you never know how those things go.
Yeah. Well, we say at Evergreen City Ballet, ECB, we say that, this is a second home to many. And once you've come into through the doors, you are welcome here anytime. You are welcome here anytime. We are nearing, it's 7:26. We are nearing the suggested viewing time of our opening night. I'm really excited to watch it. So I would like to give this moment to the musicians and the dancers, and to you also, Mr. Barney and Nathan. What are you looking forward to? We did it. On to the next. What are you looking forward to? What's next for you? As society, opens up a bit more as we progress through spring into summer. What are you looking forward to? I see your eyes, Kenneth. You're like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess
You're
I'll go.
smiling, Ning. What are you thinking about?
Kenneth, you can go first.
Okay. Oh yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting back in person. I know my school orchestra, we're gonna have an in-person concert at the end of the school year, so probably mid-June. So that'll be super awesome. Just being able to play and perform in person again. I'm looking forward to that a lot.
I was going to say the exact same thing, just like with restrictions loosening up a little bit. I'm just so excited to be able to like play with my classmates and enjoy more in-person music. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to playing in real life.
So I'm a senior this year, and I think I'm most looking forward to like not only training at UCB over the summer, but just with college. Like now I'm fully vaccinated, which hooray! But just like collaborating with others and just like physical touch with dance is so important, and like partnering and creating pieces are it's just so special and dear to my heart. Like I've been missing out on that so much. So I'm really just looking forward to hugging people and like my fellow dancers. And you just like it's we use our bodies so much, and they're such a powerful tool that when we can't like physically connect, it's so big. And I can't wait to embrace my friends again.
Similar to Addison and the musicians, I'm just really excited about the opportunity to perform again in live and like in person. That's like one of my favorite things to do, is just getting to perform in front of an audience. I love like just getting to share my love for dance with other people, and so I'm excited to be able to hopefully do that more in the future. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Welcome back, Mr. Nathan. I know some of the challenges that we've had throughout the year since the entire pandemic happened is, for me, I keep forgetting to unmute myself in every meeting that I do. In my classes, my dancers are like, Mr. Benny, you're on mute. But welcome back, Mr. Nathan. What are you looking forward to?
I am just looking forward to doing this more and doing it without all the stress of the pandemic being around us while we're doing it.
I second that. Mr. Barney, how about you?
I love performing. I love performing in every way, in every venue, whether I'm performing with my own, adult groups, or whether I'm performing with the ballet, or whether I'm performing at school. I just, that's what it's all about for me. And I'm looking forward to getting back into the routine of having those opportunities to perform again. But to be honest, I love rehearsing too. You have to love the process and the journey. And so we're back at it now, and we're working on some exciting new music, as I know you are now too. And that's also really exciting, just to be part of making music and creating again.
Here, here, here. Mr. Barney, for our viewers out there, if they are interested to see the happenings, events, performances of Newport High School Orchestra, where could they go get that information?
I can put let's see, I have to look up the exact website, but I think it's like Sono Music Newport or something like that, .org. Let me look it up. It is, I should have had it on the tip of my tongue.
You're good.
If you look up Newport, yeah, it's sono-newport.com. And Sono stands for Supporters of Newport Orchestra. Sono-newport.com, and that will give more information about our program and what we do and upcoming events.
Awesome. So for everyone tuning in out there on YouTube or Facebook, that is Sono, SONO dash Newport.com, NEWPORT.com. So for those ticket buyers, you will be receiving a digital program and a digital poster, and all of that information is there as well. We are out of time, unfortunately, and I'm looking forward to watching the film, the concert in its entirety. So for the our audiences out there, if you haven't purchased it already, our virtual box office is unfortunately closed for tonight. But tomorrow we have another show, and you can purchase purchase tickets, in fact, for tomorrow. And each performance is available for viewing for 72 hours, right? So enjoy a weekend. This weekend is Mother's Day weekend. So I'm hoping that you all have great plans for the mothers out there. And it's also Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. For our friends and community, look out on our Facebook and our social media for some content on sharing with you on how you can join us to celebrate this important event this month. And for more information on classes and programs and productions for Evergreen City Ballet, you can visit our website at www.evergreencityballet.com. I'm putting my marketing hat a little bit. That's www.evergreencityballet.com. And with that, could we do a collective wave dance goodbye to our viewers out there and send them off? Your hard work will inspire them, engage them, and uplift them. So thank you for viewing, tuning in. Have a great night and enjoy the show.
Bye, everyone.